Hello and welcome to Developing Opinions. This is JD Nile, and this video is simply the developer insight section from my longer video on The Legend of Zelda Triforce Heroes. Now, let's get started. For this section, I went diving into various interviews and videos to learn more. I will share the insights I got, but in order to have the more complete picture, I had to combine multiple sources. As such, I will put the sources in the comments. The first question, and a very common one, was why Triforce Heroes? This was asked in many places, but the answer was pretty simply they wanted to make another multiplayer Zelda game. It looks like it was Aonuma who initiated it. He said a large factor was the player feedback they got for Four Swords, which they had re-released for the 25th anniversary. However, Shikata, the director, was also into the idea. He said for his part, he was inspired by the switching control mechanic in Spirit Tracks, which was also when he joined the Zelda team. One aspect the director said of Four Swords is they felt it was a bit competitive, so here they wanted to focus more on cooperative decisions, and I do believe we see that throughout the game. Getting Triforce Heroes approved was actually smoother than A Link Between Worlds. Once they showed Miyamoto a prototype of the three-player gameplay, he got very into it and approved it. The engine uses the same as A Link Between Worlds, but rather than focusing on the art assets or the world, they said it was more because the engine was a good fit for the game they wanted to make. In the interview with Game Informer, Shikata said, when we finished up A Link Between Worlds, we looked at the game engine, and Mr. Aonuma had talked with the team about wanting to create a multiplayer Zelda game and really wanted to take a look at whether or not that system was something they could use to accomplish that goal. So more than art assets or visiting the same worlds, it's more about does a game's engine and system we have work with this next idea and do they match up? And in this case, they did. When it came to picking the number of players, they settled on 3 for a few reasons. First is the totem mechanic. By having 2 players in the middle, they would be bored quite often. In addition, due to the verticality, it could make the players look small due to how far they would have to move the camera. Another reason relates to cooperation. When there are only 3 players, they saw that people would stay closer together. As a result, 3 players became the focus, and the dungeons were designed for 3-player co-op. Single-player mode was not initially planned, but was requested by Aonuma. They did consider implementing a 2-player mode too, however, they felt that it complicated things too much. For example, if there was a doppel both players could switch to, they could ruin each other's plans. To me, that sounded more like an issue the fact that online play lacked voice chat. When asked if it would be better to quickly drop another player in when one player left, they did respond that they thought it would be confusing and disorienting for the new player. So instead, they decided it was better to take the team back to the lobby so that they could start again and quickly find a new player. When it came to dealing with bad actors, there were 2 strategies the developers had in mind. First was the block list. This was the obvious one. The second, though, was that players could disconnect to leave a party. The fact that disconnection was one of their strategies makes me think they did not imagine that it would actually be a strategy of bad actors. I could not find any interviews that took place after the introduction of hero points, but based off what I had read in a blog, it sounds to me that it was an added strategy to reward cooperative spirit, as blocks would reduce the hero points, but if you didn't get your peak in the roulette, you could get hero points. To help reduce the occurrences of players disconnecting, they had actually aimed to make the levels take between 12 and 15 minutes rather than the longer dungeons in traditional Zelda games. As a result, the levels do have a different feeling, but this was made due to the fact that you are playing with other people. For the level design, the 3-player gameplay again guided it as they filled mini sticky notes with ideas. The lack of voice chat was another common topic. While local multiplayer would have people yelling and laughing so loud in the offices at Nintendo, as shared in the Treehouse Live sessions, something Shikata noticed while on Four Swords was how a veteran would often dictate to the new player what to do. From his point of view, this was not very fun. So, taking inspiration from Line, which is a popular chat service in Japan, they incorporated stickers. The style of the stickers even matched the style that you would see in Line, which have a few official Nintendo stickers. A common point they made in these interviews as well is that by restricting people to stickers, it can make the communication feel more like a puzzle from both sides. And as a result, the people who did not know the dungeons did not feel as discouraged. For the Share Hearts feature, Aonuma actually said he thought it was the best part of co-op gameplay. If we think about it, by mandating shared hearts, you must cooperate, as opposed to throwing teammates off a cliff for the fun of it. As for how Outfit Spiller came to be, there are many stories about that. In one case, the director said how Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks had you collect materials to upgrade things. In A Link Between Worlds, you could power up items, but the director said he also wanted to be able to enhance other abilities, such as swimming in lava using the Goron outfit. In addition, for Triforce heroes, they also wanted to make it easy for players to convey their progress, as you could play with the same people but also play with different people. Finally, by having different outfits modifying different abilities, you could alter the experience even when playing the same dungeon repeatedly. As a result of all of these influences, they decided outfits were the best choice. As for other games, the director said he did have some experience with Monster Hunter or MMOs, but he also thought the way that outfits modify abilities and items felt unique to Triforce Heroes. When asked by Game Informer about the similarities with Destiny, the director said he hadn't played that title and so it had no influence. The team did mention they had some concerns with Link wearing a dress for some of the outfits. They wanted to add some variety, but in the interview with Polygon, they said they researched in both Japan and the US and found that it would not cause a serious negative reaction. Instead, their hope was that it would increase the appeal to women. As they said in Polygon, while there are a lot of aspects of Triforce Heroes that will appeal to young boys, we did think that by including outfits like the legendary dress, that we would broaden that appeal to some of our younger female gamers as well. As for the design process, They elaborated in an interview with Nintendo Dream, which Nintendo Everything has translated. When it came to the outfit design, the designer Keisuke Umeda said they had three principles. The first thing is to make the effect of the costume easy to understand. Then comes making it look interesting and easily recognizable with colors. Designs were made while keeping these three things in mind. As an example of the process, they discussed the cheerleader outfit. The effect here is to increase the energy gauge of the other players. When they evaluated their initial idea of using a pop idol, they realized that this image would work in Japan but not in other countries. So, to make it more recognizable, they opted for a cheerleader. Something that you may notice if you play the Japanese version is the energy gauge is called the Gambari gauge. Gambari is something you would hear when you are cheering for people. However, there is a case where one outfit was created just to give player access to other features. The Timeless Tunic was created to allow the player to freely listen to 8-bit like music. This music was created due to the memory limitations of download play. As a result, they could not share the original music. But having no music was not a pleasant experience, so the sound staff realized using NES-like music would be small enough to fit within the bandwidth. This ended up being a lot of work for them as they redid everything, but they were passionate to get it done. And since they had put in the work and players may want to listen to it, they created the Timeless Tunic. In other concept arts, they shared drafts for the tri-suit and the showstopper. The tri-suit is meant for everyone to wear, and so they needed a design that works well together. For the showstopper, its purpose was to attract the attention of enemies. They even showed a Pikmin-like concept for the princess's cursed outfit. But in an interview with Game Informer, they had shared about one more outfit they were looking to implement, and that was to be inspired by the Emperor's New Clothes story. However, as such an outfit had nothing, it was not made. And yes, all puns were intended. As for the items in the game, the guiding principle was to pick ones that worked for the three-player co-op. Items that could help with movement like the boomerang, the gust jar, and the grip shot were picked. Even traditional items like bow and bombs take on new properties with the totem mechanic. Though examples of some items that did not make the cut include the lantern, which was converted into an outfit, hover boots, and the tornado rod. For the tornado rod, they thought that this opposed the totem mechanics, so they dropped it. As for the story, they acknowledged that it leaned on the lighter side. The reason why the story is so lighthearted and silly is because of the focus on the clothing mechanic. As they developed things, it naturally turned into a lighthearted story. And since they wanted the three-player gameplay to be the focus, they wanted to make sure that it was easy for anyone to pick up and have fun with. In addition, Miyamoto and Aonuma like making jokey games because it is hard to place jokes in more serious titles. Before we close, I want to give a special shout out to Legendary Adventures, whose great content inspired me to take a deep look into this development. That's it for this video. Thank you for watching, and please leave a like if you want to see more like this. Thank you, and I hope to see you next time.